Okay, Simon Kuf Ayin Tes. So interesting things, Hesach Hadas, and when you need to make new brachas in the middle of a meal. So it's a similar theme to the last Simon, but the first one we'll see is something we've touched upon, saying Rabbi Nevorech, Havlon Nevorech, that is considered the Hesach Hadas. Says the Mechaba, Gomar Sudoso, if a person finished his meal, V'not al Yodov, and washed his hands, my machreinim, Eino Yochel Lechel, that shows that you've finished your meal, and therefore you cannot continue eating v'lo lishtos ad shivarich birchas hamazon until you've actually meant birchas hamazon, and then you want to eat afterwards. Then you can do that. But doing my machronim is a clear hesach hadas that you finished eating. V'im oma havlon nevorich. If a person said havlon nevorich, which is again the contemporary Rabbi Nevorich or let's bench, have a hesach hadas. That is also hesach hadas, and therefore v'oslo lishtos, and you cannot continue to drink elim kein yevorich alav tchila unless you make a new bracha on that drink. V'achilas and dinner kashtir laharosh, and according to the Rosh, the so too for achila, you need to make a bracha if you're going to eat anything more. They say no, eating is different to drinking. Even though you may have said Rabbi Nevorich, even if they've taken away the table, if you want to continue to eat, you don't need to make a new bracha. So long as you haven't yet washed netilas yadayim my machronim, that's you haven't yet finished your meal. Okay, so let's see the details. Says the Mishnah Berurah, le'achol sif aleph v'hu adin sheyesh lizoy lechatchila shelo yafsik b'dibur afilu ma'at. Once you've washed my machronim, then you should just go on and bench. You shouldn't be mafsik even with a little bit of talk. The tekef and the netila bracha. As soon as you've washed, you should bench straight away. There shouldn't be a long delay after my machronim. You shouldn't get involved in doing something. If it's pressing, however, or b'diavad you were mafsik, then what you do, you just make sure you wash my machronim again, and then you go straight into birchas hamazon. So what's the chiluk? Why are we stricter when it comes to my machronim than when saying let's bench? To mutalechol, that because after havlan nevarich you're allowed to eat v'rak shivarich hamotzim etchila. When it comes to, if you say let's bench and then you decide actually there's dessert so you want to eat more, then you just have to make a new bracha. You don't have to bench straight away. So what's the difference? So the kiven shenot yadav also lahafsik, because once you've washed netilas yadayim my machronim, you can't be mafsik. V'hina yesh kama poskim you can't wash it, because that's a much clearer indication that you've now are intending to bench. V'hina yesh kama poskim disfir lahu de'enis alechel ach. They say there's no issa to eat after you've done the Tuesday. But like with Havlon Nevorech, you just have to make a new hamoitzi. And the achronim are mekel, and therefore, if you wash my machronim and you decided to continue eating, you just have to make a new bracha, and you can be mekel. But just when you finally finished eating, then you wash your hands again. Like we said. I.e., that when you wash my machronim, just make sure you have finished, and therefore you can go straight into benching to avoid this doubt. Now, all of this is in regard to eating. But to be mafsik with dibur when you don't want to eat anymore or drink anymore, or to get involved in something, once you've done the tilis yadayim, then for my machronim you should not be involved in these sort of things. You should just get on and bench. Okay, havlon nevarich pirush. What does that actually mean? Hav means give, right? 10 lonu kois levarich. Give me a kost so I can bench birchas hamazon. Or chashim mevarchim below kost, and when you do it without a kost, im omrim bo nevarich, you say, come, let's bench. Gam kein dinah hachi, it has the same effect. Because that's a demonstration that you have finished benching. You finished eating. If you decided to stop drinking and then you say, actually, I fancy another drink, you need to make a new bracha rishona on that drink. Lishtois, if people are sitting just to drink, V'omru boi nevarich bracha achrona. Let's make an alagefen. You're sitting and drinking wine or something, or let's make a bracha achrona. Same thing. Gam kein dina hachi davi hesach hadas v'os lishtois oid v'lo bracha. So imagine you're sitting down, you're all sitting and having a l'chaim, or sitting having a coffee or a drink together, and then say, okay, Rabbi, so let's make a bracha, a boi nefashos. And that is an indication that you've got to finish. And if someone wants to have further drink, you need to make a new bracha rishona.
Apply to everyone, not just.
So the rule generally is that if the balabayas says it, then that could affect you. That's why I'm quite careful when I'm sitting at the meal and we've got guests that I won't say come let's bench if I can see someone's still eating, because l'chera his nigra achami. But otherwise, apart from that, if you're just sitting together, you go out for a coffee, then l'chera, me saying let's bench, I don't think that can impact you. I'm not sure. But for a balabais, it may do. Okay. V'achila. By the way, I said to you, I think the other day, that Shir Malis is not the same as Havlan Nevarich. So just singing Shir Malis means you can still sip your lemon tea or whatever it is. Okay. V'achila dina kashtia. So this is the shitta of the Rosh, that not only if you said Havlan Nevarich, you cannot eat, you cannot drink or eat unless you make a new bracha. The Gemara lo niska behedjirak in shtia, because the truth is the Gemara only talks about shtia or svirlei dehu hadin lachila. So the Rosh is of the opinion that it applies to eating as well. But the Rabbi and the Ran argue. Shesilik yotav milechel rotzlem afilu gomer b'dai tishlechel. Even if you just in your mind you've said you stopped eating. V'afilu silka shulchan. But according to the Rabbi and the Ran, it does not apply to eating, and even therefore, if you've stopped eating and they've taken away the table, unless you've done my machronim, it's not considered a proper end to the meal. Says Mishbura Sivkot and Zion, v'zeh meloshin Rabbeinu Yonah, v'hainu after Sfirlei dezeh choshev hesach hadas tfei mihoch mehav nevarech. Taking the table away or whatever is more of a hesach hadas than just saying let's bench. It doesn't affect. You can still continue eating until you've done my machronim. If because you're eating more, suddenly you feel thirsty, you want to have more drink, because you go boss of the achila, and therefore you wouldn't need to make a new bracha on the drink. Even though you said havlan nevarich, because when we were talking about shtia before, that was a standalone shtia, not when it came with the achila. Okay, lo nistalig, because according to Rabbeinu Yonah and the Ran, you have not finished until you've done my machronim. Mishum the derech lehigar me'achila katana legdoila. You know, a little bit of nash. You have a bit more, but you haven't finished properly. Lo choshev hesach hadas gomer. It's not considered a proper cessation of the meal. Ela kashenot lev. Only when you've done it my machronim. Mashen ken b'shtia, as opposed to drinking. Behesach hadas koldu. So even a hesach hadas, that means I finished drinking. And when it comes to drink, you would need to make a new bracha. Now, what's the halacha l'maisa? I.e., the havlan nevarich choshiv gemar suda. Once you said let's bench, that is the gemar suda, and therefore va'af b'achila also below bracha. And therefore you cannot eat and certainly not drink without a new bracha. V'chein sosam ha'mechaber l'kamam b'sim kuf samach zayin sif aleph ayin sham. And therefore, like we've said, one should be very careful not to eat or drink after you said Rabbi Sai Nevarech or let's bench, etc. V'chein pasuk b'derech Chaim v'da. The misha tzarich bracha be'emsa suda tzarich netila gamkein. That someone who does need to make a new hamoitzi afterwards because he's continuing to eat, he needs to do netilas yadayim as well. To kiv the hesach daite lo shamayadav. Since there's been a hesach hadas, he hasn't looked after his hands. V'rak birchas netilas yadayim ein a barak. We don't need to make a bracha on that netilas yadayim. Okay, beseder.